All right, everybody, welcome once again. It's really great to have you all on the webcast today. My name is Joseph Ola, and I'm a real estate agent in the province of Ontario in Canada. And I have my guest here, Segun Fashola, or otherwise known as Charles Fashola. He's been a mentor of mine in the real estate investing game, and I've learned so much from him. And I hope you also learned a lot today. I will not give away too much before we get started, but if you have any questions, leave them in the chat in the chats down below, and I will be going through them. Hopefully, about 40 minutes into the webcast. And without further ado, I will uh, pass it on to my guest today so that he will introduce himself properly, and we'll get this show started. Uh, Rashegun, welcome to the webcast today. Really great to have you.
Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting me over. I feel really honored to be selected as a guest, especially on your first webcast. I'm truly honored to be here to just talk about my little experience. I wouldn't say I have a lot of experience. I just, I have some ideas and I've tried a few things that have worked and some things that haven't worked as well. So it's not been a perfect journey. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak on this platform, and hopefully someone will take something away and will learn from this, from my experience. So thank you for inviting me over. I appreciate it.
Perfect. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a pleasure doing this, and I'm glad that you're also my first guest here. And hopefully, sometime in the future, again, we'll have you back. But we'll go straight to the first question of the day. Would you just introduce yourself to our audience and a little bit about how your real estate investing journey got started?
Thank you for that question. My name is Segun Fashola. As a lot of people know me professionally, I'm also Charles Fashola. That's my baptismal name. So I was born Catholic. So we carry those names along with us. So it's very important. It's also helped me professionally here in this side of the world because people can relate better to calling me by Charles. So I use it all the time. Yeah, I would say my background in real estate really started as a kid because I watched my dad grow up into the business as well. Investing in real estate properties as well with my mom. So all of those kind of shaped my direction to when I had the opportunity to start to invest for real. So my first investment was my first home that I purchased, and a little story behind that. It wasn't exactly easy to purchase because honestly, my wife and I didn't have a down payment. So we didn't have a down payment to purchase a house, and we're looking to purchase at the time. Back then, it was possible to get financing on zero down payment in Canada. So we were looking at those options, but we didn't have enough years of experience in terms of work to be able to reflect to get financing because we had just moved from the US back to Canada. So we only just started working a few months, and we were super excited considering the Vancouver market at the time because we moved to
Hmm.
Vancouver. So we were really excited. So how we got the first property, usually after work every day, I would just drive around for new properties, new builds and stuff, and new builders. So I was fortunate one day to drive into a neighborhood I was looking at in Vancouver, and I found this building site, and I saw this realtor in the porter cabin, and I spoke with her. And I was like, I'm interested in your development, trying to purchase my first home. What will it take to purchase? My wife and I have good jobs, but we don't have any down payment. We don't have any money to put down. We have good income. And she mentioned that, oh, she could help out. And I'm like, how are you going to help out? And she said that she was going to speak on our behalf to the builder to put down a certain amount. So after talking to the builder, she worked with us, and we made arrangements to put down $2,000 every month, and that's because it was a building site; they were still building, so that's how we put down our down payments every month to buy
Mm.
our first home. So I would say we were very fortunate to have had that opportunity to be able to, meet, with that type of person who was willing to help us at the time, considering the market was really hot at the time.
Mm.
So yeah, that was just the beginning of everything. And I guess some of your other questions along the line would address some other experience. So
Yes, yes.
go
I
ahead.
mean, there's already so much to glean from just that introduction. The tenacity of someone who doesn't even know how to get started, but you took action. You launched out there. You started looking actively to the point where you make the right connection that made things happen for you. So that tenacity is something that we all need to learn, especially if we want to get started and we feel like there's so much unknown. Sometimes you just have to take the leap of faith, so thanks so much for that. The next question is, what motivated you to get started in the first place?
Okay, so there are two parts to it. Um, the housing market in Vancouver was ridiculous at the time. And as soon as we started, thanks to my wife, because she's a nurse professionally. So usually when every day she comes back from work, and
Hello for joining our live
one
stream.
there's always one story or the other about something happening at work. Somebody said this and that, and she comes back from work and she's like, the housing market is going on. People are buying houses, and I'm like, yeah, we just started, man. Just relax for a little. And then she would every day she'll come back. I'm like, okay, so what are we gonna do? Okay, let's just start looking. And we reached out. We were driving around. We saw an open house and we looked at and saw a realtor. That's how we met our first realtor. We didn't have any contact, so that's how we started. It was unbelievable because at the time, the market was going so much up. As a matter of fact, by the time we were closing our house had appreciated about 40 grand from when we purchased before while the house was being built.
Mm,
So we started thinking that this must be something going on crazy here. That really motivated me, and I was like, okay, what are we going to do with that? So we decided to buy in the phase two of that development during construction. We bought in the phase one. We lived in the phase one. We decided to buy in the phase two. And by the time we were selling our first home to move to the other house, we had made $100,000 from just being there. We lived a total of about 10 months in the house. So with that money, we're like, okay, we moved into a bigger property. And that's
mm.
how motivation started. And by the time they were building the third phase of that development, we bought the third house. So that's kind of like how everything else kind of started and the motivation came, and I won't stop ever since.
Wow, wow, yeah. So again, a lot of uh a lot of people sometimes like to cheer people on from the sidelines. You hear things happening in the real estate market and people just talk about it. There's a whole lot of talk about real estate right now, but there are only just a few percentage of people that are actually taking the leap. So again, taking action is crucial from what I'm learning from you today. So what type of investment strategies have you employed? I know that we've heard a few things you said about a builder and whatnot. Can you tell us a bit more about your real estate investing strategies in general?
All right. So initially, my investment strategies. I mean, I've always been because of how we started with the first opportunity of buying the first home. It was kind of like attractive for me to buy new builds. So I every time I moved to a city, I always connected with a builder locally, and I would buy properties before they
Mm,
were actually built. While on paper, the blueprint of the development, and I would invest in buying that, and by the time you're closing,
mm,
it would have appreciated a certain amount. Then over the years, after moving from Vancouver to Ontario, same thing happened. By the time we were moving to Ontario, I connected with a builder online, found this builder, was talking to this realtor, was interested in this property, and that's how we built the house in Ontario. As a matter of fact, it was in the middle of the recession in 2009. So we were basically able to get everything that we wanted in that house. It was custom built the way that I wanted it. And I'll tell you a little bit. I had a lot of interest in architecture. I wanted to be an architect, so I did technical drawing in my high school. So that kind of helped me to with design. So I basically designed a home in Grimsby, Ontario. At the time,
Mm,
I gave the blueprint to the builder, and they built it
mm,
how I wanted it. And but at the time, you know, it was just more like, oh, we're excited to have a bigger house and we're moving down to Ontario. But I quickly aligned myself with the builder, and before you know it, I started to um, work with that builder, buy before construction, and I would sell. So I'll basically sell it. It's called reassignment. I'll basically sell it before the actual closing to someone who actually wants to live in the house or whether for investment. Because I had the opportunity of getting the first price on the first launch of the homes.
mm-hmm,
So I'll make the difference between the price that I bought it and the current price at the time I was going to sell it. So I did a lot of that. I did a
mm,
lot of that over the years. And I then moved on to not wanting to sell, then holding on to the properties. I've
mm-hmm,
had a few rentals over the years, but I've moved over to hospitality, vacation rentals now. That's what I do, commonly known as Airbnb all over the world. So I'm very much into vacation rentals, and it's a profitable line to be on right now. So those are my strategies that that has worked over the years, and I've had my fair share of challenges, especially with tenants over the years. I'll tell you, how do I explain this? Um, when we were leaving Vancouver, the third property we had, we left it in Vancouver at the time, and we rented it out. And but I was dealing with a lot of challenges of renters, and this property, I tried to give it to someone who could manage it for me, but they weren't able to manage it well. And I was dealing with tenant issues. It was a lot of frustration. And,
mm.
you know, I'll tell anybody that that is expected in this industry. If you're somebody has one thing you have to remember first is somebody has to have a roof over their heads.
That's
If
right.
you get, if you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm,
So you're going to have renters. So that is extremely important. Now, people will pay for rent, but you have to deal with the challenges that come with tenants because they don't have anything at stake in that house. It's your house. You might be lucky. You might have good tenants. I've been on a rental tribunal. I've been on all sorts of things. I've lost rent for months on end. But this Vancouver property was a very stressful one. And when I look back now, I wish I held on to it. I'll tell you that because this property was purchased for $400,000 in 2008 for $400,000 in 2008.
mm,
Now, I went to Vancouver last month, um, April, uh, to visit, and this same property. So on the block, it was a semi-detached property, 3-bedroom house with a finished basement. Well, I finished the basement after the fact. But my point
mm.
exactly is the same property on the same block sold for 1.425 million.
Wow.
1.425 million. That's a cool one, cool 1 million if I was going to sell considering, real estate fees and, I had the equity would be more than enough. And I had a friend who had the same property on the same street. Like he was like he just lost 1 million. And I was laughing. It's like that's the same thing that happens in real estate. If you don't hold on to something long enough for you to so the longer so the story behind it is the longer you can hold on to real estate, the
Mm-hmm.
more the more the gains down the line.
That's
So
right.
so just to let you folks know, there are lots of issues when it comes to renters. You have to have a tough skin, but the solution to it is for you to give those rental properties to a rental management company. The tenant doesn't even have to know who owns the house.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can just pass it on. Everybody got to eat somewhere. That's how you that the professionals that manage tenants. And the secret thing about tenants is that when they see that it's a property management managing a home, They know they go by the rules, so they don't play with your rent. But if they're dealing with you as an individual, they're going to come and tell you, oh, something happened this month, or they'll come up with different excuses, and you don't want to deal with that. So to save yourself the headache, pay the 10% that these rental property management companies will charge you for
Mm-hmm.
managing your tenants. So that's just in a nutshell that experience.
Wow, wow. Yeah. Again, another packed message that we've just received right now. See, I see a lot of people all the time get the jitters when they hear, being a landlord, because there's just so much to consider when it comes to working with a tenant and all of that. It's true, yeah, like you said rightly, sometimes you have a tenant that doesn't pay for months on end, but at the end of the day, you have to realize that this is a business, right? And there are certain things that are regarded as the cost of doing business. Obviously, you number one, you have to leverage the experience of others, right? That's why sometimes if you don't feel up to it, hire a property manager. Leverage the experience of experts that are in the field, so that if there are troubles, you don't have to lose your sleep over it. That's number one. The second of it is that, think about a property of 400K in 2008. Now what? Over a million plus, and what, 1.425 million, that's a million clear in the bank. Let's say you lost a rent for a whole year on that property. How much would you have lost? Let's say, how much would the rent would have been, Brochet?
Oh, the rent at the time was about 2000. Sometimes it was, well, it went up to about 22, $2,300 in rent that
Okay,
we were making at the time. So if you calculate that times 12, it's nothing.
it's it's 30,000 a year. So let's say you lost 2 years worth of rent. That means you lost 60,000 compared to $1 million in appreciation value. Right. I had a realtor back in when I bought my first home around 2010, that told me, Joseph, buy the biggest property you can buy and hold on to it. And he showed me his own houses, and he cash flow negative on all of them. And I'm like, you dude, you're crazy. What are you doing? But the man knew what he was talking about, because he cash flow negative, but that had nothing. It's just so infinitely small compared to how much appreciation that he's had over those about 4 or 5 properties, today. So it makes a lot of, when you think about the numbers in terms of, I don't mean that everybody needs to go buy property and cash flow negative on them, but you need to think about the bigger picture as a businessman, right? So that's really, really deep. We need to think about that when we're thinking about real estate investment. In general, now, what would you say, Broshegun? What would you say has been the rewards that you've received being an investor over the many years?
I mean, like we all know, in terms of how the real estate market has gone from a few years ago to where we're at right now, it's a very profitable um, investment. I would say over the years, it's been very profitable. If you're, just like you mentioned, if you're able to stick with it, if you're able to stick with it and go through the pains that come from tenants, um, it's very rewarding at the end of the day. So over the years, I've been blessed with the opportunity to, in a lot of cases, be patient and deal with the challenges that have come through with it. It's not been easy, but if you, just like anything in life, nothing is easy, nothing comes easy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to deal with the challenges, and even challenges of buying, it's hard to buy. It's hard to get qualified to buy. It's hard to get the down payment to buy. It's hard to get everything to real estate. It's I'll tell you, real estate is for the strong-hearted. If you're not strong-hearted, I would say don't come into the business, because if you're getting into it just for shelter, it's important to have shelter. I will always advise you to own your own home and not pay rent towards somebody else's home. But I mean, the world is not perfect like that for everybody to be a landlord. But if you have the opportunity, be a landlord, own your own property, and at least have a roof over your head, because you're paying towards your own property and there are gains for it. But as an investor, if you're not strong enough to be able to deal with the challenges and the issues that come with this business, then don't get into it, because it's a really tough, especially with financing. Financing is one of the most difficult things to do these days, and even to get qualified to be able to put down the down payment. But there's so many mortgage options and possibilities. I have a very good friend of mine, Paul Amusu. He's a mortgage agent at CIBC. Um, uh, Joseph, you'll be sharing that with the folks online so that everyone can see. Um,
Okay.
I've been working with him for many years right now, and he has a lot of experience that can guide you in sharing a lot of mortgage possibilities so that you can find other ways. And there's so many other programs in Canada, particularly, even in the US, where you can purchase a home. You can purchase your home with your 401k in the US or with your RRSPs in Canada. There are lots of ways that you can purchase, because raising that down payment could be very, very challenging. And if you're able to, I mean, like I told you my story, what it was, but I don't think that situation can present itself these days anymore. It's a very aggressive market. The builders are not waiting for anybody. This is Paul Amusu. Paul Amusu, you can put the number down. It's 647. That's his mobile, 647-773-7747, or 1-877-215-6120. He's an expert mortgage advisor at CIBC. He will be able to guide you in any information that you want to know about. So yeah, so the ideas there that are available, there are possibilities, but if you don't talk to an expert, you don't know what is available to you. So that's just my own 2 cents on that question.
Yes. So remember, as I said earlier too, it's crucially important that you align yourself with professionals that can handle things for you. There are quite a few key people that you need to have in your corner in this game, and one of those are mortgage brokers. And I know Mr. Amsu as well personally, so I will highly recommend that you folks reach out to him if you need any contact in that regard. Um, so talking about the rewards, it's obviously no pain no gain, right? So like Roshan just said, it's not for the faint-hearted. And a lot of times the faintness comes from people keeping their eyes on the smaller picture, right? For example, we're talking about the case of losing rent. Not too many people can bear the thought of losing rent for a whole year, because that's 30 grand in a hole, right? So it's not for the faint-hearted. If 30 grand is going to set you back, that you think you're going to file bankruptcy, then you want to think hard about getting into real estate. But on the other hand, when you think about the big picture, as a businessman, entrepreneurship is not for the faint-hearted in general. It takes guts, but at the same time, you have to realize no guts, no glory, right? So we have to expand our mindset if we're going to really reap the rewards of real estate investing. So the next question here, what are your major challenges when you got started, and how did you overcome it?
All right. So just like you just mentioned, no pain, no gain. The bigger challenge is uh, raising the down payment. Like I mentioned, my initial story about the ability to get the down payment towards purchasing the house. We so wanted to buy a house. As a matter of fact, we put an offer on the house. Like, we had no clue about real estate. I'll tell you that. Like I said, we were looking. We were just driving around. We found an open house, and that's how we met our first realtor. And that realtor, we talked to her. She sent us listings, and we said we liked the particular house, and we went on to put the offer in. And and there's also a difference. And the realtor did not educate us enough to let us know about how the financing works, and she just was excited to make a sale. I believe she was inexperienced at the time as well. And by the time it was time to get the financing, we are like, oh, I mean, we did explain to her, but I don't know what she missed in there. But we couldn't buy the house. So, but that didn't
Mm,
stop us, though. Funny enough, I got more motivated at that point, and I said, okay, now we have good income, but we don't have a down payment. How are we going to do this? And I was very optimistic with God, and I kind of believed that there had to be a way around. And that's personal. That's very personal to me. I don't give up on things like that. Like if there's a door closed, I'm going to go knock on that door for real. And you got to answer me, and we got to at least have a conversation with me. You might not let me in, but we can talk at the at your entrance. That's kind of mindset that I have. I believe that the opportunities, especially living in this side of the world where the opportunities are so much. So I never give up at an opportunity that comes my way. So that's why I started to drive around looking for properties, not even worrying about the financing piece at the time. But I'm like, let me find something. I knew that we would qualify with our income, but it was just about finding a place. And I eventually
Mhm.
found a place, and we got the opportunity presented itself for us to $2,000 every month toward construction. But that's not going to happen in this market, I don't think. I don't know how that
Mhm.
could itself. It's a different time now, and everybody is aware of what's going on. There's not enough inventory for that to even happen. So, but don't get me wrong, we all carry different graces. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, you can walk into a place and do what I can't do. So don't limit yourself based on what I'm saying or what the market is presenting at the moment. There's so many possibilities out there, and everybody has their own favor from God. So just keep at what you're trying to do and don't give up. And those opportunities will come. And especially when you talk to professionals like Joseph himself and Paul Amusa as an example, they will guide you and tell you what you need to prepare for. So that's kind of like how I see it.
Mhm. So obviously, it sounds like tenacity is definitely a desirable trait for an entrepreneur, a real estate investor. You really need to be a go-getter. If something really appeals to you and you feel that there's something for you to benefit there, then you need to be persistent. You can't just give up at the first sign of adversity. The challenges will come. Even if you're buying from builders, challenges will come. If you're buying to hold, to rent out, you have tenants to deal with. But there are professionals to help you. There are connections to be made. There are alliances that can make this journey so much easier. Like you said, you have Mr. Amusu as a mortgage broker, myself as a realtor. We're all here to help you succeed. All right. So make sure you're leveraging good connections to succeed in this game. Rashegun, what are your thoughts about the current real estate market? Like, we hear a lot of things right now that people are getting confused by the day. What are your thoughts about the trends of the market right now in North America?
All right, thanks for that question. It's a very interesting question because there are lots of conversations everywhere, with friends, with colleagues, professionally about what the market is looking like. And a lot of people always make assumptions about everything. They're going to say, oh, you know what, I'm going to hold off, I'm going to wait, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Believe it, real estate market does not necessarily work like that. A lot of people are basing what's happening in the market with what happened in 2008 and
Mhm.
2009. But that's the US market where they held bad mortgages. And that's the US is the most difficult place to get a mortgage now, even more
Mhm.
difficult than Canada. So if
Wow.
you think anything like that is going to happen again, it's not going to happen. The housing market is not going to crash based on that. A lot of people that own homes now are usually able to afford the homes that they've purchased. Investors too are usually able to afford the investment. People need roof over their heads. They're going to have to live somewhere, and people have to pay rent. So if you're coming in as an investor, don't let what's happening outside bother you. The truth about it is that somebody is still going to pay you rent to live in your house. So if you're coming in as an investor, think about owning, purchasing that property if you can. The conditions around purchasing as an investor, I believe in Canada is about 20%, even in the US as well, 20% down payment. And as long as you're able to get financing, and there's a lot of challenges with financing. There's a lot of stress testing going on because they want people to be able to afford to own these homes just in case anything goes wrong, they can hold on to the properties. And also the market, if we're going to talk about the two countries, Canada is ridiculous now, I'll tell you that, in terms of how, I mean, I can't even, I can't process it, like
Yeah.
ideally in a real real estate market, houses are supposed to appreciate between 3 to 5% annually. What we're
Mm-hmm.
seeing now is impossible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's ridiculous. I cannot even explain it. And the issues with that stemmed from supply chain during COVID. The interruption of the supply chain during COVID impacted the ability for lumber to get moved out for builders to build. That was the first problem. Second problem in Canada is housing. Housing problem has been existing for a few years now, but because of that impact due to the pandemic, it's affected the supply of properties so much that there's not enough inventory. So there are more buyers now, and especially also the immigration aspect of Canada. We have a lot of people. Canada is one of the few countries in the world that the immigration is a lot easier to get into, and we have a lot of quality immigrants. When I say quality immigrants, I mean immigrants that have a lot of money. So they're bringing a lot of money into Canada. They don't care what it will cost to purchase these homes. They want to settle their families, and the house prices keep going up because of that. Now, if you're coming in as an investor and the house is, say, for example, $1 million and you're bringing in $500,000, the banks will give you money. Meanwhile, you who's local looking to put down 10% and or 20%, it's difficult for you to buy because you know you can't compete with the folks that are coming from the outside. So mortgages get more difficult for you to purchase. Housing prices start to go up because there's a lot of people who want to buy from the outside. So the prices keep shooting up and there's not enough supply. So at the end of the day, we have the prices keep going up. Now they've started increasing interest rates so that it will slow down. It's the market is kind of trying to slow down in a little bit. We've seen this happen before when they slammed the 15% taxes in Canada
Mm-hmm.
on foreign investors. But that slowed down for a little bit and it jumped back right up. If there's no supply, there's nothing that can slow down this market. It's going to stabilize for a little bit. That's my own personal opinion. It's going to stabilize for a little bit, but the prices are not going to come down. If your house was $500,000 before things went up and it's $1 million now, based on what is happening in the market, maybe you're going to see a drop to 950 or maybe even 900 in some cases. But you're not going to see it drop back to 500,000. That's never going to happen. So let's be
Mm-hmm.
clear for those who are waiting for the market to fix up and the prices will crash and come down. It's not going to happen. There's a story of somebody who was panicking and it was like, the market is going to crash. So what they did was they decided to sell their homes. They sell their home. The one home that they had, they decided to sell it. Now, an investor came and purchased the house and decided to rent the house back to them. In the same house that they owned, the house did appreciate over $500,000 and they were watching the house. They couldn't do anything. So imagine selling your house because of the fear of the market crashing and you thought you already made so much money. And
Wow.
while you're renting your own house, the house is gone up 500,000. What are you going to do? So we see that happening to a lot of people now. The safest thing for you to do is to hold on to what you have and try to weather the storm. As long as you can pay your mortgage, as long as you can, do whatever you can, keep your homes. Now, for those that want to purchase, that's a different conversation. If you can afford it, I'm almost ruling out Canada as a place to invest. I'm sorry for Canadians. I don't know how that is realistic. But the US market is still healthy, where the US has 50 states. Think about it. Every state, there are opportunities in every state. There are a few states that are reasonable now, like Texas is a very attractive place to go. Florida, Georgia. There's so many places around in the US that the prices are reasonable. And there are jobs everywhere. And especially now that people can work remotely, you can be anywhere working. You can be anywhere working and you can live anywhere. So that flexibility is allowing people to move to less expensive areas. So I'll say for Canadians that want to invest in the US, there are lots of opportunities out there for you. You can still talk to Mr. Paul Amusu. He has a lot of mortgage possibilities because folks in Canada can go through their banks to actually get mortgage to purchase in the US. So I would recommend for Canadians who have a lot of money right now, who have a lot of equity, to put that money into good use and invest it. As long as you can put down 30%, for most, you know, you can get mortgages. Sometimes 25%, 30%. But if you're looking, that's in the US. But if you're looking to talk to your bankers, like your bank, like someone like Mr. Amusu, they'll be able to advise you on the mortgage possibilities of purchasing out in the US. So that's my take on the market. I'm not one of those that get scared of, something is going to happen, something is going to crash. So if something happens and something crashes, so people won't have roof over their heads anymore. One of the
Mm-hmm.
most important things for man is to have shelter, food and shelter.
Mm-hmm.
So people will always live in houses. So think about that. As long as you can hold on to it and go through whatever the weather is right now, weather the storm and deal with that situation, you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's very much my sentiment about the market as well. And we've also kind of hit on the second question I was going to ask about whether you would advise someone to wait or get started now. I have people I chatted with about 2017. They were gonna get in the market, but then everybody keeps talking about the GTA bubble, like get in right now. But they stayed on the sidelines until 2018, 2019. Now they're still priced out of the market. They can't get in because it's way over what they could afford. I'm still telling them, hey, whatever you can afford, still get in. But again, they're like, okay, we'll save more down payment. You'll save more down payments. Okay, so now let's say they qualify for 500,000. You want to wait till they qualify for 700,000. By that time, what is being sold for 500 now that they rejected will probably be worth 700 when they can qualify for 700. So it's like a moving target. Just jump in. Anyways, that's my sentiment as well. The market will probably keep sideways for a little while, and then it'll continue. Just a few days ago, I decided to just pull up a historical chart of the price and for the real estate in Canada over like 5 6 decades. Of course, like any price chart, there were dips, but the dips were always on the way up. You would have momentary correction, but it continued. So thanks for that advice. In that, as long as anybody can carry their mortgage, then you should stay in the market. You know, I've not spoken to any investor that sold in the past 4 or 5 years that has not told me that they regret selling. Everybody wish they had held on. Everybody, every single person wish they held on. We're winding down to the end of the program right now because we've actually hit the 47th minute. If you do have any question, maybe we'll take one or two. But the last question for that I have for Mr. Shegun here is, how would you advise investors who say they have too little to get in, too little to get started? What would you advise them to do?
All right. Too little to get in. That could be a huge challenge, though. I mean, just like the folks that you talked about now that waited on the sidelines and the prices kept going up and they couldn't afford to buy. So think about this. If you wanted to buy a 5,000 square foot home, if your money could buy it then, and now your money can only buy a townhouse, buy the townhouse. If your money can only buy a condo, buy the condo. If your money can only buy something that takes you um, 60 miles from the city, buy that property. Even if you're not going to live in the property, you can rent it out and at least you own something you're already building some equity from owning that property. So
Yeah, right.
you don't have enough. Just think about all the possibilities. If it's a condo that you can end up buying, buy. Now there are also other possibilities as well. I've seen it. I mean, in Vancouver, when we lived in Vancouver, I used to drive around and see all these very massive homes, and I'll see like homes that are like some homes could be like almost 10,000 square feet, and from the outside you could see that they were massive homes. And I used to wonder in the driveway, I was what's happening here? Are they having a party? And I would drive all through different times of the day, and I would see a lot of cars in the driveway, and I'm like, what's going on? And I talked to somebody about it, and they'd be like, oh no, it's just families that that put money together and buy a house. Like the Indians, particularly, they do that. They'll buy homes with their brothers, their sisters. All families will buy a massive home, and you won't believe the house will look like a big house from the outside, but inside of the house there are multiple apartments in there. Unbelievable. So, but the advantage to them is that they can all first of all live together if that's something that works for them, and also build equity while they're in the house. So a lot of them do that, and as time goes on, they get bought out and they move on. Whatever the case, to other properties of their own. I mean, if they built equity at the time. So if you can buy a house with your siblings, with your friends, with family, whoever you can, too little. It's not too little sometimes. If you join hands with somebody, two heads are always better than one. So that's just an advice. It might not work for you, but it's just something to think about. You might, you know, you never know. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, all I care about is owning. And as long as you own something, you're good. That's how I see it.
Yeah, thank you very much for that answer. So people, what the mistake people make is that they want the perfect house, and being their first property, they want it to be perfect, which that is. I can't hear what you. Are you muted, sir?
No, I was speaking.
Okay. Yes. So when sons get into the first home and they want it to be the perfect one, that's what keeps a lot of people on the sidelines, right? But you're saying, hey, ownership is the goal here. It's not fantasy. It's ownership, right? So getting in at where you are is important. Don't look for that house that has all the bells and whistles. That's the first thing. The other thing then is, find other people and collaborate. Okay, someone might have a good credit and the other person has a good down payment, and your siblings, well, work things out, right? I'm also, I kicked off a project in the past month or two right now, where I'm helping people to again syndicate their real estate investment portfolio. I do one where I help you with whatever finances you have put together, and I guarantee you a return of 20% annually, and that's remitted at the end of 2 years, which is 40% at the end of 2 years. But again, all you have to do is connect with people who can show you how to leverage the financial resources you're currently holding on to, that can otherwise be appreciating rather than depreciating due to inflation in your bank account. you know so that's really, really important. If you want more details about that, feel free to reach out to me on any of my social media handle. Just a couple of questions, Broshegon, as we wrap up for the day. We have a question from Adia Musa. I think that might be Mr. Paul. I'm not sure. It says, looking at the real estate market in Ontario, what would you suggest to for someone with low income to get into the real estate market? I guess that's what we just talked about right now. With, well, yeah, if you have a low income, then you might have to, find a co-signer. But again, our mortgage broker will probably be the best person to reach out to for that kind of solution. The other question by Ms. Bola Ido, she says, "Good day. Talking of US, is it possible to buy or sell now? And what is the interest like?" Well, I'm assuming she might be talking about the interest rate. But Roshek, what do you have to say to that, especially for US?
I mean, the interest rates are, thank you for that question. The interest rates are going up everywhere, in Canada and the US, more so in the US than Canada. The rates have gone up really high in the US. Um, my thing is, you can always get into something. Just get in. If you have the money, get into it. As long as you can afford to make the payments. At some point, the interest rates might stabilize and come down, and you can refinance at that point. So the biggest challenge is about getting in and and being able to afford your payments. If it is something that you can do, I would say get in. I've gone into a very ridiculous interest rate before, and because I knew what I was doing, I got into it, and within a year of getting into uh, that deal, I refinanced and I got a way. I mean, I cut off about 5% in that interest rate. So what I'm saying is that as long as you can afford it, you can get it, and the reward is always better down the line. The gains are always better down the line. If you're cash flowing, also remember that you got to cash flow because you want to make sure that the rent covers your mortgage, covers your utilities or property taxes and everything that you have to pay because that's most important. And the market that allows you to do that a lot is in the US. And I don't see the possibilities of that in Canada, especially with the amount of money that you have to put. You have to, unless you have to put down a serious amount of money, which is ridiculous to be able to get rent. The rent rate is not going much as the house prices are. So I don't know, Joseph, you're the one that can talk about the Canadian market. I just feel really, um, I mean, it's profitable for me, but it's not good for a lot of people that want to get in, and I'm not exactly happy about that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's more difficult, but it's impossible. But in the US, I mean, like true story. I went to view some properties on Thursday with uh, with my pastor who came down to Atlanta, and
Mm.
um, and we saw some properties, some ridiculous prices, like $250,000 houses for 2,000 square foot homes.
Wow.
I'm like, what? I wasn't even aware of that in my, and I'm like, is this Atlanta? It's a different area from where I live, but I'm like, how could you get that? So think about that. 250,000 for four-bedroom house, decent house.
Mm.
So the US still makes sense. It
Right.
makes sense in a lot of ways. But Canada is impossible. Sorry. Maybe.
Yeah, well, I would say, yeah, the market in Canada has certainly gotten quite complicated over the past few years. But Canada is also kind of vast, so there are quite a few spots or pockets that things might still be viable, but yeah, the investment opportunities are still, you know, they here and there. It just needs to a lot more prudence is required now when you're running your numbers to make sure that you don't get yourself in a snag, right? So it's really important again to make sure you're consulting the right people, make sure that you have all your ducks lined up so you don't get into an investment that will, get patchy along the way. Sister, what's her name? Yeah, Miss Angela Jacobs said depending on your region, there are programs. These are talking about municipal programs. So for low income earners, there if you're getting into your first homes, there are government provisions, especially in Ontario and in most provinces in Canada, that you can leverage to help you with your down payment or just some financial incentives for home ownership in general. Now she asked, how possible is it for a non-resident in the to purchase in the US? Brother, you can answer that in just a minute as we wrap up. How possible is it for non-residents to purchase in the US?
It is possible for a non-resident to purchase in the US as long as you have 30% down or 20% down payment. Sorry, my bad. 25% or 30%.
Mhm.
25% or 30%. A lot of investors will or mortgage companies will give you a mortgage at 25%, and they might still want to check your income in Canada, internationally, basically.
Yeah,
Sometimes some of them won't care. But if you're dropping 30%, no questions asked, no income, no verification, nothing. And you can purchase any house. Any house, I say, a lot of them have caps up to $2 million, depending on what you're trying to buy. But for the most part, you will get it at 30% down.
that sounds good. All right. We
But,
have
but like I
learned.
mentioned, sorry to
No
cut you off,
problem.
Joseph.
Yeah.
If you speak with Paul Amos, he'll be able to tell you about the financing possibilities within
Mhm.
Canada itself, from the banks within Canada, um, that you can leverage on, so you can get financing from Canada that can help you to purchase these houses in the US. And you might be even putting down 10 or 20%.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes. Thank you very much for that remark. There was a question also about how soon is it feasible to take out equity, or how soon is it advisable to take out equity from your investment? And that's really it's a personal question. It's based on your situation, what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish with that real estate investment. So you can reach out to me offline, and we can I can guide you a little better on how to make that decision.
I can
Thanks.
also add to that. Sorry,
Okay, go
sorry.
ahead. Right.
So when you're trying to purchase properties in the U.S., it is expected that you should have your down payment in your account sitting for at least about 2 months. Usually they ask that. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
refinancing your house to purchase, they also will look at that and it will be okay that you're pulling from your house. But the market is very competitive as well, because if you see a property that is for $250,000, believe me or not, there could be multiple people who want to purchase that house. So it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like you got to be ready with your down payment, ready with your financing at the same time, and try to purchase. I have a friend who's trying to purchase in Texas right now, who's been at it for months right now because it's becoming more difficult to find something. So I'll say, get your down payment ready, get your financing ready. Um, there are lots of opportunities out there, and you'll be ready to strike when the opportunities show up. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you very much. And like I said as well, if your own particular situation is just that you feel like what you have is too little, well, I have programs that I can engage you with that will offer you about 20% on that for 2 years consecutively. That will give you 40% at the end of 2 years. That's much better than having your money sit in the bank for 2 years and inflation eating part of it. It's been an awesome time. Very big thank you, Broshegun, for joining the stream today, for being my very first guest, and I definitely hope to have you again sometimes soon. But it's been a great time, and I'm sure more questions will come in, and as they come in, hopefully, maybe some of those I would have to reach out to you so that we can answer them appropriately. Once again, thank you very much. Any parting words?
Oh, thank you for having me, Joseph. I really appreciate the opportunity. I hope I've been able to impact a lot of our viewers today. Like you said, this is a good thing that you're doing. I appreciate this. This is a good webcast. It's very informative. You're gonna allow a lot of people to understand what's going on around and how they can start their own um, real estate investments. And one thing I have to tell people that I'm going to leave with you is don't ever give up on anything that you want to do. When you have an idea, when you think about it at the moment, at that point in time, move. You might not have all the resources to make a play, but just move. And all those things will start to come in, as you're going along. And when a door closes, there are multiple doors, man. Open the other doors, man. They're there. Believe it or not, this is North America. This is not where Joseph was probably born. Uh, where the opportunities are limited. But I'm just putting that out there. I'm just kidding. Just putting that out there. The opportunities, don't give up. Keep striving, and everything will be fine. With God, all things are possible. Thank you.
Amen. Yes, with God, all things are possible. And if you launch out with that mindset, then you will be able to achieve a lot that God has in store for you. So don't give up, be tenacious, be ready to take advantage of opportunities, expand your mindset, expand what you think is possible. And with that mindset, I believe that you will be able to achieve all your goals. Thanks a lot for joining this webcast. I look forward to meeting everyone again next week, Monday at noon. This is going to be happening every Monday by God's grace at noon. Meet me here, same place, same time, and we'll be able to continue to grow in our real estate investing journey. Thank you very much, and have a lovely afternoon. And happy Victoria Day to our Canadian brothers and sisters. And Roshagun, what is it we're celebrating in the US today?
Oh, there's no holiday in the U.S.
Oh,
today.
oh, I
Uh,
thought there was
next,
one.
it's next Monday. I believe that's Memorial Day weekend.
All right.
I believe so. Um,
Okay.
I'm I live in the U.S., but I still work in Canada, so I have a holiday today. So
That's
it's good.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks, Bro Shagun, for joining, and
You're welcome.
everybody have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.